In the early hours of May 14th, 2008, a college student called his parents after his car went off the road in rural Minnesota. He wasn't injured. He wasn't panicked. In fact, he sounded calm. He told them exactly where he thought he was, said he would walk toward a nearby town, and stayed on the phone with them the entire time. For nearly an hour, they listened as he described what he could see: fields, gravel roads, darkness stretching in every direction. And then, without warning, he said a single word: "Oh," and the line went silent. Imagine this for a moment. You're on the phone with someone you care about. You're guiding them home. You can hear their footsteps, their voice, and then suddenly everything stops. No explanation, no follow-up, just silence. Brandon Swanson was a 19-year-old college student from Minnesota. He had just finished his classes for the year. It was supposed to be a normal night. He had spent the evening with friends, nothing unusual, nothing that suggested anything was wrong. At some point after leaving, his car went off the road. He later told his parents that he wasn't hurt, just stuck. So instead of waiting, he decided to walk. Now think about this. If your car gets stuck in the middle of nowhere at night, would you stay with it or try to find help on your own? Brandon chose to walk. He called his parents and explained the situation. They agreed to come pick him up, but there was one problem. He believed he was near a town called Lind, but he wasn't. He was miles away in a completely different area. And that mistake would become one of the most important details in this entire case. Because while Brandon thought he knew where he was actually walking through unfamiliar terrain. Fields, ditches, gravel roads with no lights, all in the dark. For nearly 47 minutes, he stayed on the phone. His parents drove, trying to locate him. He described what he saw. They followed his directions, but they couldn't find him. They passed roads he mentioned, but he wasn't there. They flashed their headlights, hoping he would see them, but he didn't. Now think about this carefully. If you're speaking to someone in real time and still can't find them, what does that tell you? Is it just confusion or something more? As the call continued, Brandon mentioned seeing lights. He believed he was getting closer, closer to safety, closer to being found. But then came that moment, the one word, "Oh," and after that, nothing. The line didn't disconnect immediately. The line stayed open, but Brandon never spoke again. His parents called his name again and again. No response. Eventually, the line went dead. That was the last time anyone ever heard from him. Search efforts began almost immediately. Police, volunteers, family. They searched the area extensively. Fields, roads, nearby locations. But there was a problem. They didn't know exactly where to search, because Brandon himself didn't know where he was. His car was eventually found, abandoned, far from where he believed he had been. And that changed everything, because now the question wasn't just, where did he go? It became, where was he really? We'll come back to that final moment on the phone, because what may have happened right after he said, "Oh,"
has been debated for years. And as the search continued, one possibility began to stand out. A possibility that might explain the silence, but also raises even more questions. After the call ended, the search for Brandon Swanson intensified. But from the very beginning, there was a problem that made everything harder. location. Brandon believed he was near Lind, but when authorities later found his car, it was miles away from that town. That meant one thing. Everything he described on the phone was based on a location that wasn't accurate. Now think about this. If you're lost but believe you know where you are, does that make it easier or harder to be found? Because in this case, it made everything more complicated. Search teams focused on the area where his car was discovered. They expanded outward. Fields, roads, ditches. They followed the paths he might have taken. And quickly, they realized something about the terrain. It wasn't simple. There were uneven fields, drainage ditches, areas covered in tall grass, and a nearby river. All of it difficult to navigate, especially in the dark. Now imagine walking through that environment at night. No streetlights, no clear paths, just open land and obstacles you can't see. For nearly an hour, Brandon had been moving through that terrain, talking, describing what he thought he saw. At one point during the call, he mentioned crossing a fence. Later, he talked about walking through fields. These details helped narrow down possible routes, but still, no exact path could be confirmed. Then, investigators focused on that final moment, the word he said before everything stopped. Oh. It wasn't a sentence, not a cry for help, just a sudden reaction. Now think about this carefully. When someone says a single word like that, what does it usually mean? Surprise? A misstep? Something unexpected? Many investigators and analysts have focused on this exact moment because that word might be the only clue to what happened next. One theory is that he fell. The terrain included deep ditches, some filled with water, others hidden by grass. In the dark, without visibility, it's possible he didn't see where he was stepping. Another possibility involves the nearby river. If he reached it and tried to cross, the outcome could be very different. But despite extensive searches, no clear evidence was found. No confirmed location where he fell. No definitive trace of what happened after the call. And that's what makes this case so difficult. Because there's no clear break point, no moment where everything becomes obvious. Just a gradual disappearance, ending in silence. Search teams returned again and again over the following days, weeks, months, using different methods, different approaches. But every time they came back with the same result. Nothing. Now think about this. How does someone remain missing after such an immediate and focused search? Is it possible that something was simply overlooked? Or is there another explanation entirely? Because while the environment provides some answers, it doesn't explain everything. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of another person, no indication that he had met someone. And yet, he was gone. We'll come back to the theories because there are several possibilities that people still debate today, and each one tries to explain that final moment. But before that, there's something else to consider. Because sometimes the hardest cases are not the ones with too many clues. They're the ones with almost none. In the years following the disappearance of Brandon Swanson, investigators, volunteers, and even independent search groups returned to the area again and again, each time with the same goal: find something that had been missed. Because in cases like this,
the answer is often close, closer than anyone expects. But despite repeated searches, nothing definitive was ever found. No personal belongings, no clear trail, no evidence that pointed to a specific outcome. And that left investigators with theories. The first and most widely discussed was accidental, that Brandon, walking through unfamiliar terrain in the dark, simply fell. The area was filled with hazards, deep ditches, uneven ground, water channels that could be difficult to see even during the day. Now think about this. If someone falls into a concealed ditch or water-filled area at night, how likely is it that they would be found immediately? Especially if the search is focused slightly off from the actual location. Because remember, Brandon's parents were searching near Lind, while he was actually miles away. That gap in location could mean that early searches missed the correct area entirely. Another theory focuses on the river. Some believe that Brandon may have reached it, attempted to cross, and slipped. Water changes everything in a search. It can carry away evidence, hide it, make recovery much more difficult. But even with that possibility, there has never been definitive proof, and that's where the uncertainty remains. Because while these explanations are possible, they are not confirmed. Now think about this carefully. Is a likely explanation the same as a proven one? Because in this case, the difference matters. There have also been more speculative theories, possibilities involving another person, an unexpected encounter, something unplanned. But investigators have never found evidence supporting that. No signs of a struggle, no witness placing someone else in the area. And that keeps the focus returning to the environment itself, the land, the darkness, the isolation. Because sometimes circumstances alone are enough. Still, one detail continues to stand out: that final word, "oh." It suggests something immediate, something sudden, not a long event, not a drawn-out situation, just a moment, a single moment where everything changed. And that moment is the center of the mystery. We'll come back to what this case represents, because it's not just about what happened. It's about how quickly things can change and how easily someone can disappear, even while speaking to the people trying to help them. More than a decade later, the disappearance of Brandon Swanson is defined by one thing: a voice. A phone call that lasted nearly an hour, a real-time connection between a son and his parents that ended without warning. No struggle heard, no clear sign of danger, just a single word and silence. Oh. Everything about this case comes back to that moment, because it suggests something sudden, something unexpected, not something planned, not something gradual, just a shift. Now think about this. If someone disappears while actively talking to others, does that make the case easier to understand or more confusing? Because you have a timeline, you have communication, and yet you still don't have answers. Over the years, search efforts have continued. New methods, new technologies, renewed attempts to locate even the smallest clue. But the result has remained the same.
No confirmed trace. His car was found, his phone call was documented, his path was partially reconstructed, but the final piece, what happened after that last word, remains unknown. Many believe it was an accident, a fall into terrain that concealed him, an encounter with something he couldn't see in the dark. Others still question whether something else could have happened, something not yet considered. And that's where this case stays, between explanation and uncertainty, because even the most logical answer is still only a possibility, not a confirmed truth. So now, let me ask you something. If you were on that phone call, hearing his voice in real time, what would you have done differently? Would anything have changed the outcome? Or was that moment already beyond anyone's control? And one more thing to think about. Do you believe this case will ever be solved? Or will it remain one of those rare situations where the answer exists but is never found? Because in the end, this story isn't just about disappearance. It's about how quickly certainty can turn into confusion, how a normal night can become something else entirely, and how sometimes, even when we are closest to someone, they can still be lost. Thank you for listening.